Let's talk about a couple of regrets. First off, just tear this all back apart again. First off, I regret not fixing this basilisk plate to the main body before priming everything. Prior to that, I regret priming it with that gray first. I tried so hard to get the color I wanted on that gray, and I couldn't. It's about 4 hours messing around with various dry brushes and some washes, and just couldn't do it. Couldn't get what I wanted. But I did all my work down here and on the that axle that was on the inside before I glued this all down. So all of my mistakes are thankfully quite hidden. What's going to be hard to hide is some of this seam. This thing, I knew it was never going to match up perfectly. And it took quite a bit filling. I had to relocate an awful lot of rivets. Bunch of green stuff. I hate green stuff. I hate using it so much. This part up here, I essentially gave up and decided to make a weld line. These parts didn't match up. Bolts and plates. Job's a good one. I keep telling myself I can make these mistakes because it's a work vehicle. I gave it a shot of Chaos Black because this I find it takes the paint a lot better. Like, let's face it, it's meant for priming vehicles, right? Obviously, it's a better choice. To that end, I hope the color comes out. I don't think it's gonna. I don't think I'm quite bright enough here. Between this clip and the next, I'll put in a couple nice, better pictures of it. But I did manage an industrial yellowy brown orangey color. This is 4 dry brushes of Averland Sunset highlights with where's it here? Highlights with a yellow and another yellow and then a wash and then some touch-up highlights. Oh god, I spent 3 hours getting this. And now I have to apply the whole thing over top of that. Not going to be fun. For the wheels, came up with some details. This is diamond plate polystyrene. I've had this forever. I don't remember where I got it from. I'm not sure what it would cost now. I've had it for over a decade. Finally found a use for it. Every one of these wheels has a little bit of difference to it to make them interesting. And while there are a few gaps hither and yon on these things, I'm going to go over them afterwards, and we're going to take some, like after they've been painted, and add some effects, like some rust, maybe a lot of chipping. It's going to be some PVA glue and and sand, and a few little bit of rocks, and all around a bunch of these just to try to cover and fill the gaps. Make it look a bit more realistic. Like it's driven through the mud, right? Because the whole thing's obviously going to have driven through the mud. But the diamond plate did give me some ability to put something interesting on these wheels rather than have them all be like flat. This one's going to be flat. I'll paint something on there afterwards, right? But just have them all be slightly different. It took me 4 days to come up with this. while I beat on everything else. For friggin' days to finally come up with something to make these wheels look a bit more interesting. And then there's the gun. So, as you can see, this this placeholder, right, fits in there. It's not going to be too big. I decided to kind of limit the size of the main gun to something that doesn't mess too badly with the profile, right? Like if I can get this thing kind of even on it like that. A lot of other builds will have something here the size of a film canister, right? Something like an inch wide. It's just immense, comically immense at that. That's okay. It is. It's a personal choice. Other people want to do that. Other people can do that. I've decided not to. And I want something short and stubby like this to look kind of like a tank hunter. So if on the front of this rust, this was going to be, I had the idea of building a Trader Guard regiment just because I like tanks and Imperial Guard were interesting, and then they came up with a bunch of cultist miniatures, which I thought looked really cool. I thought, I could build a small Trader Guard regiment just for show. This was 10 years ago. That's how far it got. But this gun is essentially what I'm going to build onto here. Obviously, it's not going to have these side pipes on it because it can't. But it's going to have this big fat... that doesn't look too bad either, to be honest. That I'm not opposed to that. Maybe next time. This big muzzle brake looking thing, that's going to go on there, which won't be difficult. That's some plates, right? That'll come flat. Let's grab some of my scrap metal. Kind of flat. You can't see that. Flat like that. A little curve down. Instead of, it won't have the big circles, obviously. I'll make something that looks kind of like the muzzle brake on a White 50 or something like that, right? Mostly the kind of to stop the vehicle from pushing itself backwards every time it shoots. And then a bunch of details for it. So I'm going to beat up on this thing for a while, and when I'm done, to whatever point I'm done at, when I decide to stop, I'll let you see, and we'll see how far we get. Now, I know Games Workshop said just be able to do a nice yellow in 2 thinned coats. Maybe they're just better at thinning paint than I, or have far more patience, because I found I got better coverage taking it right out of the bottle and brute forcing the living snot out of it. I'm building a work model, and I'm not exactly building to heavy metal painting standards, so I actually want, a few streaks here and there, a bit, slightly uneven. I want it to look used. Next step was some shading with Seraphim Sepia, and an awful lot of it, because I need to really, really play up the wear this is supposed to have had, along with some good highlights. I think I did it. It's got just enough streak on it to look like it's been weathered. It's overall orange enough to look like it's industrial equipment. And I think it turned out fairly well. And then, well, here it is in all of its orange glory. That's an awful lot of orange, isn't it? It's going to take an awful lot of work to make that look like something other than a bowl of fruit. But we'll get to that. And while we try to figure out how we're going to get to that, let's work on the gun. Now, I like to say this worked out exactly as I wanted it to. I'd be lying my ass off doing it. I figured I'd build something roughly octagonal like that, the gun on that Lehman Russ. Dawned on me I was never going to be able to do the kind of baffles I wanted. So let's drill some holes in it. I measured them out, thought they were nice and good and clear, and thought things were going just peachy until I got it all together and decided it looked like, well, you can see how it looks. It also hit me that maybe it was time to change the elevation of the gun, or just start fresh. Looks a bit more technical than I would have liked, but it's a gun, and yes, it's got a pointy bit on the bottom because this is a game with a meme where you drive closer to them, so you may stab them with your sword. While I waited for all the green stuff and glue to dry on that thing, I went back to filling in details on the main hull of the machine, and finally got around to gluing down the engine and the rear cowling, with only slight difficulty. But thankfully I'd test fitted the whole lot and knew it was going to fit with a little bit of work. Finally, it's together enough. The gun isn't glued on yet, by the way. It's finally put together enough to do a bit of a cinematic over top of it. Trust me, I will never do one of these again with as poorly as this turned out. But it turned out, didn't it? Finally, to get that really grungy, scummy look, I dug into the old paint box and gave a shot at that whole sponge technique. It took a few layers. I saved the front for last, just here's that obligatory shot of me doing it. I think the sides and back turned out way, way better. And all that brings us to where we are now. Executive decision, decided to change the angle of the gun. I felt this was originally pointed up like that, which meant that the guy loading it, tear it all apart again, which would have meant that whatever person was loading it would have wound up under. Yeah, didn't think that was a good idea. So gun face is a little flatter, so it's actually shooting at something instead of over something. If I was going to shoot over something, this would be a basilisk, and since they took my ability away to use those, I was not very happy about it. Yeah, come on. The tank commander done. That's the little dude from the battle wagon box. Got him all painted up. The undercarriage is as filthy as I thought I could get away with. It's some nice streaks. Oil. I would have liked to have chipped this with hairspray. The problem is that they don't make a spray of Averland Sunset anymore. I actually literally didn't know that it even came in the spray until I looked online, and it turned out it had already been discontinued. Oh well. If I had spray or any good with an airbrush, then I would have hairspray chipped the living bejesus out of a whole bunch of this, just to have more stuff. But as it is, I think it looks okay. Like, I should probably get in here with a little bit of black. One of the nice things about Paint Works is you can just model chips and battle damage directly into the plastic rather than trying to make them look realistic with chipping. I'm not sure. I built a pair of Rot Oilers kind of with the plan that they were going to be looking like they're arguing over something. But I hate to say it, at this point I would just like to get this project done. It's been a fun project and all. It's also taken me 3 weeks. On and off and off and on. And it just feels like dragging my feet to add anything more to it. If I add grots in the future, maybe I'll throw an updated picture. I still like the idea of putting a banner pole in here. I might. At the very least, you know, the open spot says looks like something should go there. But the body itself, I think we got her. Lots of oil drips coming out from under the panels. Definitely more crud along the bottom of the machine. Got some wear on the stairs where they would, you know, obviously climb up and get in. I think I did okay with what I have, which, as you would have seen before, are... Oh no, don't tell me you didn't. Good, still good. The things I have that I don't think they make anymore. God, doesn't even have a year on it. It's like a 10-year-old thing of chestnut ink. And then I had to reach all the way back. Way back. For a couple of colors. I am $3.95. So this paint has gone up. How much? Price tag on one of these things. I think the paints I bought at the local store a little under $6. The aqua colors are $5.49 in Kanakistani pesos. But you know what? Still paint in there. This pot's got to be... God, this pot's got to be 20 years old. Same thing with this one. And I thought it was toast. Gave it just a little shot of water and some agitation. Come back to life. I'm surprised. White is still, no matter what variety of white you buy, it's still absolute dog vomit. So next step's the wheels. I got to pick a... What do we have to pick? A spot that's up, right? Because all of this shading is kind of dependent on which direction is up, right? Like your cast shadows down. So I'll have to pick a spot that's at the top of the wheel. And this guy's got just enough of a wobble in him. There's this one spot where he looks okay, and another spot where it's all wall-eyed. Pick a spot that's the top, do all the shading down like that. There'll be a bit of radial shading, but for the most part, I think the cast shadows down. And then it's I would do the park behind the house, grab some sand. I should have a bunch of sand. I honestly should have a whole lot of sand. After everything looks nice, it would be PVA glue. A sprinkle of sand like that. Same thing along these, right? Sprinkle the sand, and then paint them with. Therein lies another problem. I don't have a whole lot of browns, and our store isn't open till Wednesday. And I know for a fact the other place that sells the Revel colors. Their browns are all these guys, which I'm fairly sure are way more for airbrushes than regular brushes. But we'll blow up that bridge when we get there. That's a problem for future Kevin. And we will see you in the future.